Good morning. I'm Secretary Edwin Lacierda from Pinoy's Administration.
Masantos sa kapusan at sikin amin, naimbang nga bigat tayo amin apo, magandang Tuesday, Pilipinas! Naniag sa Braganza po, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's Administration.
And we are the Spokes!
From the palace halls then to our group chats now.
We'll be giving you perspectives from an insider's position. So,
Para tayo matalib.
and noted by the Spokes today, President Bongbong Marcos has ordered the suspension of excise tax on kerosene and liquefied petroleum gas or LPG, while also waiving tariffs on selected food imports.
Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, Boss Edwin, magandang Tuesday, Pilipinas. Kasi every Tuesday, tumataas ang presyo. Effective ata rin yung Tuesday na bababa, no? Today. So,
Bumaba
good
na.
news. Thank you very much po.
Alam mo, can I just say something? Give me 2 minutes to say this.
Ang haba
There is
niyan,
a famous Harvard scientist, inunahan na kita. There's a famous Harvard scientist, and he's the father of biodiversity. His name is Edward Osborne Wilson.
Ah, yes.
You know him?
No. I've read about it.
Okay.
Ikaw
So
naman,
anyway,
ikaw makilala mo personal?
yes.
Talaga?
No. Well, anyway,
Yes,
Edward
yes.
Osborne Wilson is the father of the biodiversity, and he studied ants to study social behavior, and very, very controversial, his theory, social behavior has evolutionary roots. Anyway, ang sabi niya sa problema, the real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions,
Explain.
medieval institutions,
Okay.
and godlike technology. So, ang ibig sabihin niya, ang Paleolithic emotions, our emotional wiring has been formed 10,000 years ago
Yes.
during the Stone Age when we were
Yes.
still living in tribes.
Yes.
And the danger was always immediate and physical. So,
Yes.
kaya ang nangyari doon, ang emotions natin, and this is happening right now, our emotions are threefold. Number one, fast. Mabilis tayo mag-respond. Gusto natin may reaction kaagad. Number two, binary. Kasi,
Yes.
di ba, dangerous. So,
Okay.
when you face a binary position, is it si nanay ba, kaibigan, or kaaway? Or is it safe or unsafe?
Gusto mo sagutin ko yan?
Bakla ka ba?
Ako ang
Number
lalaki,
three.
siya yun.
Anyway, number 3 is short-term. Wala kang long-term thinking kasi you're always concerned about survival.
Yes.
So yung anong ganong klaseng emotion, hanggang yung dala natin. So like si Eileen, tumaas ang presyo, uwi ng Batangas, sabi dapat bumaba na ang gasolina, dapat bumaba na ang crudo, kaya immediate response. On the second part, medieval institutions, our government really has to take time to study carefully the measures to be taken. No? Hindi siya talaga mabilis gumalaw. And lastly, godlike technology. It has outpaced both emotional and our medieval institutions. Our prices are not determined by our local market. It's determined globally. Lahat yan, naka-tech na yan. So, everything is our technology is so godlike that it has outpaced both our emotions, it has outpaced our government. Kaya talagang expect us, the government, not to be always fast. May sinasabi nga, the government we will never be happy with the response of government. Kasi parati talaga, that's our emotional wiring.
I do agree with the fact that you cannot please everyone.
Yes.
But the reaction to a situation depends on your income also.
Correct.
So for example, may kilala akong mayaman na, alam mo dati 20 times a year ako bumabiyahe. Ngayon it's only 18. I'm naghihirap. Parang ganun. So in the same manner na yung mahirap naman, di ba? When it reacts to certain price hikes, di ba? Iba rin ang reaction. So it's the government that should balance. I do agree na yung gobyerno yung magbibigay ng balanse sa taong bayan, mayaman o mahirap.
May sinabi si Pangulong Marcos kahapon that it is only government can do the reforms. It can all do the measures. And I believe also that greatest engine for social change is government talaga. Like yung talipapap mo, maganda yan. But imagine if it is government doing it is the greatest engine, may skill siya eh.
Good that you mentioned that because unang-una, pasalamat tayo kay Secretary Roque because he's now supporting yung talipapa project natin, no? To improve the supply chain at saka yung distribution chain.
Alam mo,
and to keep prices lower. Yun lang. in the midst of crisis. Ha? So,
After-
Secretary Roque, thank you very much.
After
Bobby
the
Bastillo, thank you very
interview,
much.
she supported the talipapa advocacy of Nani. Kaya may Sylvie Pray Panay sabi ko, sip, gumagana pala yun.
No, you know,
No, but just kidding aside, it's very important.
I do agree with you na mabilis gumalaw si Secretary Roque because she feels the urgency of the situation. Yun lang. So again, congratulations DTI.
The action taken by the president really would benefit the low-income households talaga.
Yes,
So,
of course, that is always under the direction of this administration.
Right.
Hindi naman gagalaw si Secretary Roque on her own. Probably it's part of the grand plan or the plan of the administration to support yung low-income families. So again, thank you very much po.
and you know, you cannot blame, it's natural for us to be concerned and to be reacting. We want immediate responses, no? But really, government cannot really act that fast kasi ang daming sector niyang babalansehin eh. May transport sector, merong agricultural workers, merong mga low-income sector. So talagang there's so many things. But limited ang pera natin, so that's why I think today yata may anunsyo tungkol sa excise tax yata or sa sa fuel and crude oil. No? So at least expect some measures of correction. But you know, the thing is, our prices are not controlled by our government, neither by the private companies. It's really controlled globally.
Yes,
See, that's the challenge that we have right now. Everything is so global that we don't have control over our own prices.
So, I do agree with you. But you know, in the context of food, dapat malinaw yung policy. Food security is national security. So, dapat magkaroon ng paradigm shift, di ba? Regarding kung sino yung nakikinabang at sino yung makikinabang. Sino yung tataas ang kita at nakikinabang. Now, you know, global oil prices have surged under the United States announced it would block Iranian ports. Ito, medyo weird sa akin to. Nung una, ang gusto nila is to open the ports. Now, the US wants to block the ports and will not arrest but board or something.
Yes.
Yung mga dumaan na walang parang paalam sa kanila kasi nagbayad ng taripa sa Iran. Hindi ko maintindihan to.
Yung akala ko nung nag-announce si President Trump, I thought he was going to block the entire state of Hormuz. Yan pala, a military official made a more nuanced response. No? What they intend to do is to block the Iranian ports.
Yes.
To really stifle the Iranian economy. Kasi may lumalabas sa mga... Tama ka, noong initially, pinayagan niya mga Iranian carriers maglabas na para ma-stabilize yung oil prices. Pero ngayon, nag-iba na. Dahil nothing happened on the peace talks. That's why he's trying to block all the Iranian ports so hindi makapasok, hindi makalabas.
Let me just go back to the short history of this war. Di ba?
Short lang, ha?
Short lang. Hindi parang yung 2 minutes mo kanina. Inubos mo oras.
Wala 2 minuto yun.
Anyway, the point being is, mga kababayan mo natin kinalaman sa gera nito.
Tama yun.
It is between the US, Israel, and Iran. But it has impacted on the economies worldwide.
Sinabi mo ba, impacto?
Impacted.
Okay.
Impacted. I'm so English also sometimes. Okay?
Very British as well.
Yeah, my God. Okay. So in other words, what I'm simply saying is, mabilis matapos tong gerang to, the better for the world economy, ha? Okay. The problem is, the US and Israel are doing it alone. Their traditional allies are not supporting them. Di ba? In the same manner na the destruction brought about by this war, hindi lang sa Israel, hindi lang sa Iran. In fact, ang US wala kang tama sa bomba eh. But the entire Middle East. So, the basic infrastructure to produce oil, to refine oil, to transport oil, has been impacted.
Are held hostage now.
So, from a 60 peso per barrel ata, it's now 120, 100% increase.
In fact, they're looking at 175 if this persists.
O nga, the good news is bababa. Di ba? Hindi ko alam because of the supply chain or proactive yung gobyerno natin na maghanap ng alternative sources. So, in fact, I read the news na humingi tayo sa Amerika ng pahintulot. Because may sanction kasi ibang bansang pinagkukuha na natin. At nakakuha tayo. And they are now landing dito sa Pilipinas. So, in other words, kung hindi titigil tong gerang to, mas magiging masama yung epekto nito sa ating ekonomiya. Hindi lang po sa atin, kundi sa buong bansa at lalong-lalo na wala tayong sariling langis. Yun lang.
To the credit of this government, and I say to the credit because the number one problem that we have is access to fuel.
Yes.
If our fuel supply is cut, talagang problema tayo. And so far, the government has been able to identify areas where we can source fuel. So that's important.
Yes.
And the most, like, it's similar to power, the most expensive power is no power. The most expensive fuel is no fuel. So right now we're doing that. So it's still, so we have more than, I suppose we still have 55 days or a bit lesser. But tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang paghanap ng langis sa ating ibang mga kapitbahay.
So the thing with that is, hindi na i-standardize yung presyo ng langis, unlike before. So kanya-kanyang discarding ngayon yung bawat bansa. So we may find or see uneven presyo sa bentahan sa bilihan. Yun lang naman. But anyway.
But notwithstanding that, I hope the government continues to be more proactive because the increases or the prices surge goes up and down on a weekly basis.
Yes.
So if we don't have any measures to help our poor, tuloy-tuloy ang pagtaas. Swerte lang, bumaba ng itong linggo, bumaba ang presyo ng langis. But in any event.
By the way, as a former mayor, pag tumaas ang presyo ng kerosene at saka yung panluto, gas, it impacts on the environment. Kasi yung mga tao who can afford it before cannot afford it now. Di ba? Mangangahoy eh. And you know, we've experienced this before.
Mangangahoy yung kumukuha ng...
Yeah, kaingin.
Kaingin.
Okay. Illegal farming. Illegal activity. So, you know, it's hard to balance this eh. Pangalawa, yung pagkain sa bahay. At saka yung kung sila may negosyo, it will also impact. So, by bringing it down, eh, medyo makakahinga ho ng konti yung ating mga kababayan.
Okay, so, we'll have a discussion with the former Department of Agriculture Secretary on Food Security at kamag-anak ni Nani na mas bata sa kanya. When the spokes return after this short break. And the spokes is back. As a former Secretary of Agriculture, he represented farmer and fisherfolk interests in crafting government policies. Joining us is former Agriculture Secretary and Federation of Free Farmers Chairman, Secretary Leonardo Montemayor.
Welcome, pamangkin.
Welcome, Uncle.
Paliwanag mo, bakit matanda ka?
Balaga salamat inawat nyo may pangkesyon natin.
Salamat, Sir.
Magkapit-bahay po kami sa Juan, sa Alaminos. As in crawling distance.
Pero kamag-anak kayo talaga?
Uncle nga niya ako, sa totoo lang.
Yes.
Kaya pala talaga...
From the Di Castro from the Di Castro clan.
Yes.
You know, Secretary Montemayor, you really look very, very young.
Okay, ito na.
I've been telling Nani to shave off his beard. But that this is pampogi raw.
You know, it must be the virgin coconut oil I've been taking. For about 25 years now.
Pakiulit po, it's the...
Virgin coconut oil.
Okay, with emphasis on
the oil.
the oil.
Well, anyway, Secretary Montemayor, I just wanted to ask now.
Coconut oil, yes.
You know,
Totoo naman po.
I've seen you testify in Congress, and you have a very encyclopedic knowledge of the farming sector and the fisherfolk interest. What is for just a baseline discussion, what is the total population of farmers in the country?
It's roughly, I would say, a little over 10 million.
And of
individuals.
that 10 million, how many would comprise the fisherfolk and how many would be agricultural farmers?
Fisherfolk siguro, Edwin, mga 2 to 3
million.
2 to 3 million. And then the rest would be land-based.
Land-based yan.
Dagdag ko lang
Sige. Expert ka rin, go ahead.
when I was DAL Secretary, Manong Leonie was Agricultural Secretary. So we have to work with each other. So yung usapin ng land area kasi, for agriculture, about 8 million. Tama po yung 10 million the number of farmers. But, you know, nagsishrink din kasi yun because of development, especially within the cities. Yun lang naman yun But that's the number.
Okay, so we know the the farmer population, including fisherfolk. What is now the percentage of urban to rural? Because my latest count is, during our time, it was already moving towards more than majority. And latest, I think, from PSA is about 55 to 60%. That's urban.
I think that would be correct.
That means that it's the farmers that are, we're talking about food security a while ago. That means these farmers, it's a small minority, about 10 million or 7 to 10 million, are carrying the burden of providing food to a big population. It's an urban sector.
Pero malaki pa rin as a percentage of the working population. Agriculture is 25% of the
Right,
labor
In terms
force.
of income.
So, but nonetheless, we've seen, and this is anecdotal, and maybe you can provide a more scientific, that the farming population is going down. Is that correct? The children of farmers,
Aging.
na aging, and then Nani, I think, reminded us that the children of the farmers don't want to go into farming anymore.
Oo, tsaka we cannot blame them kasi they see their parents leading very difficult lives, and then so the younger people they see very little future.
So what happens now to our food security?
And malaking problema talaga yan. So we have to provide the answers, especially to the young people. Siguro, combination din ng kasi mas exposed ang mga younger people sa new technologies.
Yes.
Mas challenge sila. Tapos, ayaw na ng mga kabataan yung very laborious types of
This is
work.
really very physical
So
lang.
this is where mechanization has to really kick in, among other things. Use of digital, technology, etc., to maximize the productivity in the sector.
Food security is national security. Unlike oil na wala tayo, we have land, we have farmers. Pero dapat magkaroon ng paradigm shift yung gobyerno natin in terms of measuring success. You mentioned about income, ayaw ng mga bata. Because government, ang tingin niya kasi is production, not income. You may have a high production, pero low income. Yun ang difference nun eh. So, hindi nai-engage yung mga bata. Then you mentioned about mechanization, modernization, which is equal to efficiency. Kaya nga, yung lamang ng ibang bansa sa atin, Manong Leone, di ba? Efficient yung agriculture nila. Tayo medyo inefficient pa. Tama po ba?
Yes. So, importante siguro dito, I think, Nani, you're correct. Dapat talaga ang titignan natin yung income.
Right.
Because if the farmer cannot make money, if he remains poor, I mean, why should we subject him to...
Why you're saying it should be income, what is the metric that you're using as a success?
Well,
Production.
When you say income, for example, the price, the price of the product. So, halimbawa, if he's a palay farmer, magkano kikitain niya sa kanyang palay na being produced? Hindi lang yung how many kabans per hectare is he producing.
Let's talk about the plight of farmers pre-fuel crisis. And now, how my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that hirap na talaga yung mga ating mga magsasaka even before this fuel crisis because the cost of production has always been high. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, that would be correct. And itong fuel crisis ngayon has exacerbated the problem. So can you imagine from yung dati yung diesel mga a little below 60 pesos, it has now more than doubled, di ba? Gasoline, ganun din. But it's the same farmer doing the same type of work. It's the same fisherman going to the pumapalaot every day. Pero nagdoble yung kanyang fuel expenses alone.
May lang po, no? We have a supply chain problem and we have a distribution chain problem in the Philippines. Ito po current research po namin to with the help of yung CARD, yung Center for Agriculture and Rural Development. The price of the farmgate price remains stable. In fact, may mga bumaba like yung repolyo kasi nagkaroon ng nagsabay-sabay yung harvest, hindi na ibaba rito. Yun lang ho eh. Yung carrots, medyo tumaas ang cost. You know, between the farm at saka yung consumer, there is an increase of between 100 and 300% in terms of cost ng food. At ang nakikinabang, hindi yung farmer. Ang nakikinabang, yung hindi nagtanim, yung may kapital lang para itawid yung pagkain. At ang nabibiktima, yung consumer. So imagine the situation, pag naayos mo yung supply chain mo at value chain mo, di ba? So, distribution chain. 300%, 100 sa farmer, less 100% sa, less 20-30% sa consumer, ang ayusin mo yung gitna eh. Kasi ang nakikinabang po rito, Manong Leone, correct me if I'm wrong, are the people in between the farm and the consumers and business. Yun ang problema. Based on our very recent research po to. Now, as a policy maker before, and as a former Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, how can we correct this supply chain and distribution chain problem?
For one thing, if we can cut the distance, shall we say, in terms of time, at saka yung expense in moving from production to the consumer, malaking bagay yan eh. Like right now, we're in the middle, again, of a pandemic type
Right.
of crisis.
Situation.
Oo. So, ang naisip ko noon pa, and I think Nani also agrees with this, as much as possible, dapat i-localize natin yung food security.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning to say, kumbaga may kasabihan, charity begins at home.
Right.
Food security should begin at home, from the very basic level of the farm household. And then from the farm household, you radiate to the community, the barangay, and then to the municipality, and then eventually the province. And also, since archipelagic tayo, we consist of so many islands, no? Ang hirap yung you bring your products from
Right.
one island to the other. So if we can be as self-contained as possible, but of course maintaining a certain minimum level of efficiency para hindi naman mapahamak yung consumer, that's the best way to address any type of
But is
crisis.
that a realization only now because of the fuel crisis? Because I understand, apart from the logistics problem that Nani was mentioning, all aspects of farming are hit because the farmers are so fuel dependent from planting, you mechanize it, and the ingredients, fertilizers are very expensive right now because it's oil-based. Towards harvest, every aspect of it talagang merong apekto ng fuel. And that's why the government has given a 5,000 peso subsidy for the farmers and fisherfolk. Is that enough?
No, that's just a very, very superficial approach to addressing the problems right now. And by the way, it's also even irrigation.
Irrigation,
Because
yes.
if a farmer uses shallow tube wells, he has to use di ba? Diesel to power his irrigation pump. So
One more question lang po. We're a middle-income economy. 20 million families. Only 9 million families qualify as middle-income families. The remaining 11 million, where the farmers are, cannot even qualify to be called middle income because government statistics, besides minimum wage, in our constitution, nakalagay po kasi living income. The computation now is 1,200 per day. Ang layo po nun. And based on our computation before when I was mayor, on the average, yung farmer, pag rain-fed yung lupa, ang monthly income niya, distributed po ito ranges from 2,000 to 3,000 pesos. Kaya bugbog ho talaga yung magsasakay. And at the end of the day, sabi nga po natin, paradigm shift Hindi ayuda yung solusyon ho rito Because kahit walang ayuda yung farmer, kung maayos yung distribution chain mo, supply chain mo, at value adding aangat yung pera ng farmer
Do you agree to that?
So,
So you can do away with...
ang starting
I'm not
point
saying doing
talaga,
away. Correct it.
ang starting point talaga is what should be the minimum income for a farmer to survive. Kasi pagka he cannot survive on that income, I mean, how can you expect him to produce
You were a
well?
former agriculture secretary, so what should be the ideal income of a farmer?
Sinabi ni Nani, yung living income 1,200 per day. So siguro times 30, I would say at least around 36,000 pesos a month.
But who will provide that? Your farm gate prices are so low.
Hindi, kaya nga,
Hindi,
you have to look at
improve
the
ang
entire...
production.
In the Philippines kasi, ang typical farm is a small
Exactly.
farm. 1 hectare, 1.5. So how can we come up with programs whereby the farmers will earn 36,000
We
per
were
month for the
discussing
family?
this previous to the show. How come in the Philippines, with the exception of the 4 haciendas being carved before, we haven't done a corporatizing the 1 hectare lot so that farmers will have economies of scale. They can leverage their size. But right now, they're just very retail. Bibili sila ng ingredients, ng fertilizer. Napakamahal because wala silang economies of scale, wala silang leverage.
We have to provide the framework tsaka support system.
Pero matagal na po yan. Secretary Montemayor, it's been a long while.
In response to kay Boss Edwin lang, no? Besides yung farm mechanization, ang wala sa farmer, post-harvest facilities. Walang kapasidad yung farmer mag-store ng kanyang produkto. So, nasa kami ng private sector yun And that's where the manipulation starts.
But why doesn't government enter that area?
We do that. May budget tayo.
So bakit problema pa rin ngayon?
Hindi siya consistent at saka yung data sa agriculture kasi, yung data at saka yung actual, hindi pantay Hindi nagtutugma. That's why they justify importation.
I'll go back to what I was saying earlier, but we try to make the farmer and this family as self-sufficient as
Yes.
possible. So, titignan mo yung farm. Normally, medyo may major crop yan, let's say palay.
Yes.
But we know that palay is not enough. So, you have to think in terms of what other crops.
Multi-crops.
Yes, vegetables,
High-value
fruits, high-value crops, also farm animals, goats, carabaos for milk, etc. So the whole spectrum should be, brought together into
So
that
how many of the farmers are doing that?
Post-harvest. Post-harvest is
No,
a
but
problem.
he's talking
Hindi,
about
in
utilizing
general,
the
I'd say farmers do that, but in a very limited way. Kasi limitado rin yung nila, yung puhunan. Limitado din yung access to markets. So dapat ayusin mo lahat yun, Edwin, yung access to capital, access to,
Yes,
to
credit,
markets, access to
technology.
machinery,
Technology.
etc. So the Department of Agriculture has to come out with a holistic program.
Boss, ito na lang. Let me, policy suggestion, if Manong Leone agrees with it. Maraming build, operate, and transfer na programa yung gobyerno. Build, lease, and transfer. But concentrated on highways, concentrated on energy. Is it possible na as a major policy shift, paradigm shift, to increase the income of farmers, magkaroon din ng BOT on post-harvest facilities for farmers. Build, operate, and transfer. Not necessarily by the government, but by the tulong ng private sector.
BOT is a
You
private
can do
sector.
that for,
sector.
let's say, for
Yeah, but
irrigation.
the problem there is, Nani, is I did BOT work when I was still in a private law firm. What's the IRR there? I mean, what's the rate of return for the businessman? I mean, that's a factor that if the private sector is going in there, what is the rate of return for them?
Pero question lang ang ROA sa agriculture mataas Yung agriculture, it's 100% based on our study. Ang problema is, kung piso to, bawi ng 2 piso yung kita ng farmer. It's the price manipulation to the market ang problema. Yun lang.
The question about food security again is, can the Philippines ever be food secure? But before you answer this question, the spokes will return after this short break.
The spokes is back, still with my pamangkin, former Department of Agriculture Secretary Leonardo Montemayor. Edwin, pagsaltain mo naman daw, pasagutin mo. Our hanging question.
Ikaw ang sumasagot, hindi
The
ako.
Philippines before. Guest nga ako dito. Hindi ako host ngayon. Pareho kami ng passion. Our hanging question, can the Philippines be food secure?
Yes, both
Yun
of
po.
you, if you
Yes,
want.
siguro to approach it in a different way. Tapos I'll relate it to our current problems. Kasi ang dalawang malaking problema talaga ng buong bansa, and also for farmers in general and fisherfolk, is yung energy.
Right.
Number 2 is our inputs.
Right.
Okay. I'll start muna on the input side. Fertilizer is a very basic factor in having a secure, food secure nation, and ensuring also farmers earn a decent income. But we've been so dependent on external sources of fertilizer kasi more than 90% ng ating fertilizer inorganic, petroleum-based, natural gas-based, and that's all imported.
And that's why it's expensive now.
90% ang imported.
More than 90, actually.
So the organic is only maliit lang, 10% lang.
Wala pa. Organic
Composting?
siguro, baka wala pang 3% ang kwan So, ang question is, okay, we know talagang kwan, ang mahal. So, kahit gusto ng farmer, wala naman siyang pera pambili. Yung tinatawag na fertilizer subsidy, it's so limited. And now, nagdoble yung yung price ng urea. So, how do we approach it? We're not entirely helpless kasi meron naman tayong free gifts of nature. Kumbaga, tawag ko dyan, modern mana. What are these? For example, in the area of fertilizer, scientists from Biotech, National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, sometime in 1986, they discovered that you can produce fertilizer with the use of beneficial microorganisms. Kinuha
kamusta
yung
na?
microbes sa talahib, can you imagine?
Meron, it's already being
Oh
implemented?
yes. Tapos yung microorganism na yon, it captures the nitrogen in the air.
Yes.
Remember
Okay.
the atmosphere
Yes.
is 80% nitrogen, So but the plant cannot use it in that form. So kinakapture ng bacteria, tapos na-develop yung fertilizer in such a way that using these beneficial microorganisms, they now supply the part of the fertilizer requirements, urea, of the plant. And you do that with rice, corn, vegetables. So, ngayon, ang problema natin, dati ang farmer, karamihan sa kanila, mga 2 sacks lang of urea. Kulang na yun or ideally, at least 4 sacks dapat.
For 1
urea.
hectare?
Per hectare, at least.
Yeah.
Di ba? Ngayon, nagmahal.
Yes.
So karamihan ng farmer, magre-reduce sila from 4 to 2. So can you replace at least yung dalawa na nawawala with biofertilizer? The answer is yes. I've talked to the biofertilizer people and sabi nila, they can immediately supply enough biofertilizers to replace the 2 sacks of urea that is now unaffordable. And that will cover 3 to 3.5 million hectares.
Is
Nandyan
Secretary Kiko Laurel aware of this and are they implementing what
alam
you're
ni
suggesting?
Kanya, ang secretary lang, ang problema, although the technology has been there for a long time, and President Bongbong himself, early in his term, when we suggested to him, he said, yes, let's promote biofertilizer. Eh, nagkaroon ng ownership, intellectual property issues, kaya hindi talaga umusbong eh. But if we address that, we can immediately address the 50% potential drop in fertilizer use with the use of this technology that's with us now.
Ang Kuya Leonie, ang based again on our research, sorry po. The availability of inorganic, of organic fertilizer, commercial level, limits
Kulang pa.
limits yung accessibility niya sa farmers versus inorganic fertilizer with all their marketing programs. Kaya when you go to the province, kita mo yung mga farm mo kung saan ka lumaki. Di ba? May mga signages na ito getong fertilizer ang ginamit.
Pero are
When we tried organic fertilizer, the main problem was hindi lang yung quantity ng magagawa kasi wala nga commercial availability. Yung aging farmers. Now the average age of farmers is 54. 58 pa ata. When I was mayor, it was 40-something plus eh. Tumataas eh. Kasi wala nang bata. Kaya anong ginagawa namin, pinomote namin yung organic fertilizer, may naglagay ka ng placard sa farm niya, huwag niyong nakawin yung tae ng hayop ko. Because that's the primary ingredient for organic fertilizer. In the absence of commercial availability, the other problem is soil acidity. The more you use chemical-based fertilizer, lumilit yung production mo eh. That's the natural impact. So in other words, kawawa yung farmer. So tama po kayo, government should come in.
Yeah, it
You
should
know
be
yung sinasabi ni
promoted
Manny
and
Leonie.
supported in a very big way.
And you're saying that
Both organic as well as biofertilizer.
but if you're doing both organic and biofertilizer, it would drastically reduce the cost of at the very least
Oh, yes,
the inputs.
yes.
How much is it comprised in the cost of production for a farm?
Itong biofertilizer, for example, that can replace to some extent the inorganic urea, 1 kilo would cost about, I'd say, around 600 to 750 pesos per kilo. And 2 kilos, that would be about 1.2 to 1.5. It can replace 2
2 sacks.
sacks of synthetic urea. Magkano ngayon yun? 2.5 per sack times 2, 5,000. Versus 1.5, 1.2. So dun na lang malaki ng diferensya. And ang ganda ng biofertilizers, as well as organic fertilizer, it's very good for the soil. Hindi pinapatay yung mga mikrobyo doon na kailangan ng healthy soil.
Can I ask, in the entire Philippines, what area is promoting or using already biofertilizer or organic farming?
Medyo spread na rin yan nationwide. Sayang nga kasi when I was Secretary of Agriculture, I started the ball rolling, so to speak, in 2002. And down the road, nagkaroon na po ng maraming mixing plants supported by the Department of Agriculture, DOST, the plants were sourcing their mother cultures from the biotech
Yes.
in UP Los Baños. And then LGUs were also involved, some farmers groups. So they were making their own biofertilizer under, of course, supervision from biotech. Unfortunately, over the years, hindi na-sustain. So ngayon, ang challenge ngayon is how to
Ang isang sagot ko, boss,
Spread it.
sa nyo kanina,
Yes, yes.
high-value crops
Right.
produced in greenhouses. Yun ang hindi gumagamit ng organic o ng inorganic fertilizer. Maraming klase yan, di ba? So imagine mo na lang ang Israel na disyerto is exporting. May agricultural products, di ba? Israel, disyerto.
There is a, you're talking about post-harvest problems. So there's another new phenomenon right now. In fact, foreign investors are investing in the country on cold storage. How has it played? Is that a very important component towards preserving the shelf life of our
Very, very
products?
important. Kasi usually, siyempre pag harvest, we are talking about onions.
Right.
Onions have a very short shelf life. So when harvest is around, the farmer is in a hurry to sell. Otherwise, mabubulok lang yan. Pero kung wala siyang access sa cold storage, yung trader will get all the benefits, di ba?
Look, the farmgate of sibuyas is 15 pesos. In Nueva Vizcaya.
Yeah.
Pag kinarga mo sa cold storage yan, magja-jack up yan to about 60, 70 pesos.
Ang presyo ng ano?
Yes.
Per kilo?
Between 15, without the cold storage, ang presyo ngayon sa Pilipinas is about 80 pesos.
So what
So
you're
with the
saying?
cold storage is, kailangan mo yon during rainy season. Kasi nabubulok yung sibuyas pag tinanim mo, pag nabasa. So you store. You store. Hindi lang sibuyas, kamatis, and the like. Kulang yung yung laki ng farm mo, yung bilang ng producer mo versus inuulit ko yung post-harvest facilities, hindi nagmamatch.
So I will
Hindi
link,
nagmamatch. That's the problem.
I'll link again the issue with what can we do during this emergency situation.
Right.
Ang simple answer dyan, solar. Yung araw. You know, there's now a technology. In fact, we're trying this out in one of our units in Cambiling Tarlac. Yung solar-powered cold storage facilities. Yung nakita ko na prototype doon, ang itsura kasing laki ng isang container van.
Right.
Pero it uses
Solar power.
solar panels.
Drying ho ng pala ito? It's used for
onions.
for onions. Okay.
But that's what BBM, I understand BBM.
And I was told that even things like yung farm level na yung mill, small
Yes.
rice mills, meron ng technology ngayon using also
And
sunlight
you know,
to power that.
in relation
and
to
it lowers the cost of...
Pati machinery, tractora,
yes.
power tillers, meron ng technology. So ang question lang siguro isa, yung battery. Can we have a battery with us,
But the question there is not so much the battery as whether it is the political will of government to encourage all this. Is it being done right now?
Medyo nag-umpisa na. And we started off during Bongbong Marcos's presidency and its application to irrigation.
yun.
So medyo malaki ang funding ngayon for irrigation systems powered by
Now that
solar
Manong
power.
Leonie mentioned that, pag magtatayo ka ng dam kasi, dalawa palagi ang target. Energy and irrigation. Primarily energy, then irrigation. It's cheaper, kung may opposition doon sa area, it's cheaper to build irrigation canals powered by sustainable energy, like windmills, at saka mga solar-powered water pumps. So it's a choice between building the big one or building the smaller ones that brings water to the farm. Kaya sabi ko, paradigm shift eh. Or else lahat ito theoretical.
Yeah.
Governance is about policy, programs, and projects. That's a given. Good policy, hindi malinaw ang programa. At mas malabo ang project. So that's where the problem lies. And now, pag pumasok yung
The
mga...
point is, the solutions are available.
Yes.
Matter lang talaga of ramping up the effort to really make it.
Let me go to a tough question, which I failed to ask a while ago. You were saying it's not the 5,000 subsidy is not enough. If you were the current
Walang yun.
Secretary of Agriculture, what subsidies would you provide, if ever?
Well, fertilizer subsidy, at least for that portion na hindi kayang
They're already providing
masalugan.
that. The amount maybe to you is not...
You know, in some countries, I think they subsidize up to 80% of the fertilizer expense. Dito, maswerte kung may 20% ng fertilizer cost ng farmer, sinasagot ng gobyerno.
LGU should play a crucial role. Di ba? And government, national, should support the LGUs. Kasi may ira siya eh. Di ba? LGUs can guarantee the suppliers fertilizer para walang cash out sa farmer. They can buy in bulk. We did this before in Alaminos kasi. Where the LGU guaranteed yung fertilizer requirement ng farmers. The fertilizer is delivered to the farm. We clustered the farms to meet scales. Ang tawag nga namin 8-8 eh. So, kita mo kagad. Tapos may training yung farmers. Then, efficiency lang sa collection. After. Now, national government and local government can do that. Support the LGUs who are active in agriculture. Boss, because the other problem is this. Agriculture was devolved. Devolved. National, regional, provincial. Yung agriculturist, tao ng mayor. Naputol yung linya ng support. Yun lang ang gusto pong sabihin.
There's another tough question for, is the government creating a farming sector that will survive only through subsidies? Is that a fair question?
But even if the government wanted to, kulang din ang ang resources ng government to, to make it successful. So, tsaka I'd rather that we do it in a much more sustainable fashion.
Policy.
Oo.
Okay.
So, for example,
pardon me for saying this. That's a motherhood statement. So how do you make it specific?
well, first of all, yung tariff policy mo.
Okay.
Hindi pwede yung may crisis dyan, pandemic or itong Middle East war. Iniisip agad ng mga policy makers natin, mga economic managers, lower the tariff rates on corn, rice, pork, etc. No? Kasi ang signal yan sa farmer, we will reduce protection for you. So, kung ikaw yung farmer, ba't ako magtatanim ng gusto?
Correct.
Pagpasok ng mga very, very cheap imported competing products, patay kami sa presyo. So, dapat that tariff policy should provide the necessary
But are we
protection.
doing this on the basis of comparative advantage?
Ano yan?
Itong mga ginagawang tarification, it's a basis on a comparative advantage. Kung mas mura doon, why don't you just get it from
But remember, Edwin, in the other countries, Western countries, ang laki ng subsidies binibigay nila sa kwan.
Kaya
So talagang kailangan ng
If
subsidies.
you talk about comparative advantage, sasabihin ng iba, bakit dito sa US, sa ibang countries, isang farmer, ang laki-laki ng output niya. Konting labor lang. Paano? Subsidize yung puhunan niya
Right.
na pambili ng makinarya. Subsidize yung ibang mga kanya, support systems. Ang farmer, ang liit ng kwan. Subsidy level.
You know, Manong Edwin is correct eh. Ako, I can agree with subsidies and policy shift. Pero, kailangan maging productive yung farmer natin. If the objective is yung farmer natin, yung agriculture natin maging net exporter rather than a net importer of commodities, then tatargetin mo yun eh. If we can only produce, say, 70% of our food requirements, you import 30%.
Right.
Not kill the entire rural sector because of policy shifts that favors the importers rather than the local farmers. And supports the economies of other countries rather than our economy. Yun lang. Okay? So, will the Philippines face a food crisis that government cannot subsidize anymore in the near future, Manong Lodi? Johnny?
Pwede mangyari yun. Kung naubos yung natin, naubos sa flood control, malis yung
Totoo kasi. Di ba? Alam mo, Kuya Yoni, alam mo, love na love kita, pero parang sobrang ingat mo ata ngayon.
Okay. So, talagang wala na tayong oras. Maraming salamat.
Yung akin, it's a very complicated topic which you cannot discuss in an hour's time. Tapos yung questions dapat pointed. But anyway, just the same, Maraming salamat po, Manong Leonie.
At maraming salamat, Secretary Braganza, ang ating dalawang magaling na guest. No, but seriously.
Ano ba merienda ng guest dito? Baka matikman nga yung merienda nila.
Anyway.
Pansit? Okay.
Food security is no longer just about farming. It is about energy, logistics, and global shocks.
The question is not only how much we produce, but how much of that production actually reaches the table. Former Secretary Hernani Agsalud Braganza po.
And former Secretary Edwin Lacierda. And we are
The Spokes.